Thanks very much for your time this evening. This is what the region, indeed the world, has been fearing, the conflict spilling out of Syria and over borders. What's the mood like there in Turkey at what has happened?
Well, thanks, Scott. First, I should say there is a lot of anger inside Turkey right now because the Syrian regime crossed many red lines and ignored many warnings before of not to escalate the tension and to respect Turkish sovereignty and integrity and not to threaten the national security. But unfortunately, this regime is ignoring all signals coming from Turkey and the international community. That's why the government felt the need yesterday to respond directly and immediately to the source of the shells. Because it was not, they will not be able to be silent anymore after all these repeated, frequent violations. The credibility of the government was on the bridge, and also the power of the deterrence power of Turkey as a regional power also. So it was really needed to retaliate to this assault by the Syrian regime.
Before we talk more about, sorry, Ali Baakir, before we talk more about the Turkish response, has more been learnt about what the Syrians were doing? Was this a stray shell that accidentally went across the border, or was this a targeted attack?
Well, as I said before, it's a frequent violation. Whether it's really targeted on aiming on Turkey or it's just accidentally happened. Anyway, according to international law, the Syrian government is responsible for this assault and have to admit it, whether it was done by it or by any other group. Although we know, and according to military information also came from here, it was the Syrian regime who shelled this into the Turkish side of the border. So on both sides, the Syrian government should held responsible of what's going on and should admit it and also compensate on it. This is according also to international law. So we can't say here, no, it's not, even if we assume that some accidental shells was done or these shells came from groups or another part, it's still the same. This will not make the Syrian government not responsible of the issue. Although we, as I said before, the information confirms that the shells came from the Syrian regime sources.
The Syrian information minister has reportedly passed on the government's condolences for the deaths that have occurred in Turkey and said the shelling would be investigated. What do the Turkish people think about that?
Well, as I said before, the issue is that the Syrian government has no credibility, and as the whole world know, they said many things, and they said they will do reforms. They said they will. It's not them who is bombing the cities and destroying and killing, making massacres, and they said a lot of things. The issue is that there is no trust anymore with this government, and this regime should be down because it's becoming danger not only to the Syrian people and the Syrian state itself, but also to the whole region, as you see, and to the international atmospheres. So by one way or another, it should be held responsible for what's going on right now.
Ali Hussein Baakir, how great was the risk that when the Turkish forces retaliated and fired back, how great was the risk of escalating the tensions, escalating the conflict?
Well, theoretically, it's an open possibility to escalate, but I have to stress here that the Turkish government has no benefit in escalating and has no will also to do this. What has done is that, as I said, they were urged the need to retaliate because it crossed all red lines, and it's now you can't anymore stay silent about this. Turkey is first seeking broader support from international community and regional institutions, but from United Nations and Security Council and from the NATO. But unfortunately, as we know that they will just condemn verbally and things will end here, then Turkey has to depend more on itself to protect its sovereignty and to protect its people also, because as you know, 5 citizens were dead by the Syrian regime shells, and because of this, the Turkish government late night prepared a draft of bill to pass it for the parliament in order to allow the Turkish military to respond immediately if it's necessarily to any kind of escalations that the Syrian regime might seek in this atmosphere.
And the Parliament is voting on that bill tonight, I believe. What's likely to be the outcome?
Well, yes, right now they are voting about it, and we expect the decision to come out at maximum, maybe right now, maybe at maximum at 5 in Turkey time, but most likely the Parliament will approve this bill and will agree on it, giving the Turkish army the green light to respond immediately in appropriate way to any Syrian violations, whatever it takes.
Ali Hussein Bakir,
because according to the Turkish
sorry for talking across you again, but in regard to your statement before that there's been verbal admonishments, a verbal response from NATO and other members of the international community, but that's all. How disappointed are people in Turkey that NATO and others in the international community hasn't done more to try and stop these incursions across the border into Turkey?
Well, I can tell you, Scott, the amount of disappointment is very high. There is a frustration. There is a feeling that Turkey was left alone in the arena. And moreover, the international community, and they are not just fulfilling what they should be responsible on. This regime, as I said before, it's not a matter of Turkey and Syria anymore. It's a matter of there is a people being slaughtered. Now, more than 30,000 people, Syrian citizens, were dead during this 1.5 year assault from the Syrian regime, and the United Nations and Security Councils were just paralyzed and doing nothing about it. And as I said before, this regime is becoming very dangerous to the whole region and to the international community. So when we see these facts, and Turkey government too, they are very frustrated. They hope things go beyond political issues and look really deeply into the humanitarian concept of what's happening. At least there's a minimum that should be done, and unfortunately even international community is not doing this minimum, and it's just about verbal things of we are helping or condemning or whatever. So unfortunately, yes, they are very frustrated, and it's not about Turkey also, but Middle Eastern people, I can say this, and also regional governments.
Ali Hussein Bakir, the Turkish Deputy Prime Minister, is reported as saying that the government will protect its sovereign rights to the end. What do you think he means by to the end, and indeed what will bring an end to this conflict with Syria?
Well, I think, as I said before, he meant that now the Turkish army will be responsible on defending Turkey's soil and sovereignty and protecting its people and national security, whatever it takes. Now, the Syrian regime should understand very well from this statement and from these Turkish actions that he can't go further anymore, and it should be stopped at certain level. And we hope that maybe by a way or another he understands this message and don't go for further escalation, because if it goes furthermore, things will not be controllable maybe in the future. But for now, I can say that Turkey as a government don't have the interest or the will to escalate the issue. It was just self-defense, and the aim was to shut down the retaliation sources from the Syrian regime side of the borders, and taking just measures to prepare for any crazy things that the Syrian regime might go for it.
Ali Hussein Bakir from the International Strategic Research Organisation in Ankara, Turkey, thank you very much for your time and perspective tonight.